I've always been very curious why in the Dragon Ball Android Saga, Goku's attitude towards Cell was that Gohan had to put him to death. And not like with Piccolo Jr., Vegeta, or even Frieza. Spare his life. Of course, I think many people would just tell me. It's because Cell has too many spots, making him too troublesome to draw. So, Cell had to die. But I know that even setting aside the objective factor of being difficult to draw, Akira Toriyama has always liked to include in Dragon Ball many little-known details. So, with this question in mind, I recently reread the Dragon Ball manga and rewatched the anime 2.5 times. Only then did I discover that Cell wasn't just killed off because he was hard to draw. It was arranged by Toriyama that he had to die for a much simpler reason. He was the most sinister and evil of the three main Dragon Ball bosses. To analyze a character, one must adhere to the principle of listening to their words and observing their actions. First, let's analyze Cell's own personality. The first impression Cell gives upon his debut is that of being sinister and cunning, unscrupulous. To evolve into his perfect form, he nonchalantly killed Trunks and stole the time machine. Even to successfully travel back in time in the machine, he was willing to revert to his larval form and endure 3 years underground in complete darkness. You could say his obsession with evolving into his perfect form and his unscrupulous methods reached a horrifying level. In addition, Cell had no honor and was a huge hypocrite. In fact, before the Cell games, Goku had already dealt with Cell more than once and had a preliminary understanding of him. The first time was before Goku entered the hyperbolic time chamber when he used instant transmission to appear and save Tien and Piccolo. At this time, Goku issued a challenge to Cell. However, Cell, who had already absorbed Android 17 and evolved into his sausage-lipped form, showed no honor. He rushed forward, attempting to take Goku's life. Such a dishonorable Cell was quickly beaten to a pulp by Super Vegeta. At this point, to save his own life, Cell used slick words, smooth talking and saying that after he evolved into his perfect form, his power would increase dramatically, trying to get Vegeta to fight him again after he became perfect. Remember, right after he absorbed Android 17 and evolved into his semi-perfect form, Cell ignored Goku's challenge and attacked directly. But when facing Super Vegeta, he hoped Vegeta would accept his challenge and spare him for the time being. This is a classic double standard. Soon, with Vegeta's help, Cell got his wish. Absorbing Android 18 and evolving into his perfect form, he effortlessly defeated Vegeta and Trunks, and then, convinced his power was unbeatable, Cell immediately became incredibly arrogant, shamelessly saying he could spare Trunks, let them go back and train hard, and fight again in the Cell games 10 days later. You might think Cell wanted a worthy opponent to have a satisfyingly good fight. But in reality, he was just showing off the greatness of his own power, enjoying the pressure and the thrill of controlling others. This mentality is like that of someone who got rich overnight, just wanting to squander it all. After Goku finished training in the hyperbolic time chamber, he used instant transmission again for a second meeting with Cell. The purpose of this was firstly, to get a close look and feel out perfect Cell's true power. Secondly, he wanted to see for himself again and confirm the other's character. After a brief silence, when he walked out of the hyperbolic time chamber, Goku, who had been relaxed, suddenly had an extremely serious expression. Goku was a seasoned warrior, having experienced countless battles, and seeing through the essence of others was not difficult for him. However, in Cell, Goku couldn't see a single trace of humanity or goodness. It was like seeing a glowing red Beardfang demon in the darkness. Goku clearly realized that Cell was a monster through and through. There was no possibility of reconciliation between them, so Goku no longer held any illusions about Cell. The final outcome could only be life or death, and during the Cell Games period, Cell, as the originator of the tournament, had set a rule that being knocked out of the ring meant losing the match. But in his fight with Goku, he went back on his word, blasting the ring into a bottomless pit with a single energy wave, personally destroying the rule he had made. You could say he had absolutely no credibility. Goku knew that Cell's power came from absorbing others, not from his own training. Cell's actions were not only despicable and sinister, bullying the weak and fearing the strong, but he also went back on his word, and had no sense of honor. Such a person who becomes arrogant with success lacks the integrity a true warrior should have. How could he win Goku's respect? Therefore, we can see that at the Cell Games, Goku tossed Cell a senzu bean. On the surface, it seemed foolish, but it was actually a sign of contempt for Cell. On one hand, Goku's action was implying to Cell, we don't stoop to taking advantage of you with tag team tactics. Even if you're at full power, you will still be defeated by my son, Gohan. On the other hand, Goku knew that crisis and anger are the keys to unlocking a Scion's potential. A fully restored and even more dangerous Cell was more likely to draw out Gohan's latent power. Goku was like a mother eagle who must heartlessly push her chick off a cliff so that Gohan could be reborn from the ashes. The only thing Goku didn't expect was that Gohan's nature wasn't so inclined to fighting. After a reminder from Piccolo, he finally came to his senses. However, this video focuses on Cell, so I won't elaborate too much on Gohan's character here. Back to looking at Cell's original 3 stages. We find that each of Cell's forms can correspond to a group of people in real life. Now let's compare Cell with the other bosses in Dragon Ball Z. Take Frieza, for example. The Great Emperor represents organized criminal evil. This type of person is evil, but he still follows some rules. Frieza understands strategy, knows when to advance and retreat, and will compromise. He doesn't dare provoke those he can't afford to offend. In the Dragon Ball Super Resurrection F arc, Golden Frieza was in a fierce battle with Goku. The Emperor suddenly glimpsed the god of destruction, Beerus, watching from the side, and was immediately panicked. He even temporarily set aside his hatred to first consider Beerus's wishes. This shows that an enemy like Frieza has the possibility of negotiation and balance. There's also the opportunity to fight alongside the protagonist. When Goku negotiated with Frieza to make him the 10th participant for Universe 7, and Frieza's performance in the Tournament of Power was quite commendable. He also contributed an indispensable force to the team's victory. And the other of the 3 main bosses, Kid Buu, represents unconscious evil. This type of evil has no reason or emotion, only blindly destroying everything in its path. This kind of unconscious evildoer is a psychopath. His crimes are serious, but you can't completely blame him, because he fundamentally lacks the ability to distinguish right from wrong. Only Cell, evil nature is the most heinous. He is a rational, innately evil being. He does evil for personal amusement. Trunks once asked Cell what the purpose of holding the Cell games was. Cell eloquently stated that he had no interest in conquering the universe or anything like that. Finding fun was his only purpose. And his greatest pleasure was seeing the look of fear on human faces. Compared to the other bosses, Cell can't achieve the rich emotional understanding of Vegeta, nor can he achieve Frieza's world-defying arrogance, let alone Buu's unconscious evil. He just wants to be a carefree, unrestrained being, blowing up the earth with his left hand and sipping fine red wine with his right, a tasteful being who terrifies everyone. The one existence towering over all of humanity. This kind of calm, rational, pure evil has no worldly desires, and no obvious weaknesses. He will neither repent nor compromise. There is no possibility of him turning over a new leaf, and there's certainly no value in redeeming him. For such evil, there is no other way but to completely destroy it. After analyzing Cell's personality traits, let's look at Goku's changes. The standard by which Goku measures whether to spare an enemy changes, and the key turning point is Frieza. Before this, Goku always held a "do unto others as you would have them do unto you" attitude. He was honest, not one for suspicion. If an enemy showed the slightest sign of remorse or begged for mercy, he would easily let them go. After the decisive battle with Frieza on planet Namek, Goku spared his life. Goku originally thought that Frieza, as the dignified emperor of the universe, would either disappear from the world of fighting and killing, and stop doing evil, or train hard in martial arts and come back for revenge. However, Frieza repaid kindness with evil, attempting to attack Goku with an energy wave. At the beginning of the Android Saga, Goku thought about his action of giving energy to Frieza, and regretted it deeply. He confessed to Trunks that he should have finished Frieza off on Namek. And before Frieza, like Tao Pai Pai, Raditz, Geese, and other enemies, Goku had also spared them. But not only did they not repent, they became even more arrogant. As the saying goes, 3rd time's the charm. Frieza's treachery made Goku deeply realize that there are some villains in this world who are despicable, have no bottom line, no shame and no remorse. Even with great martial arts skill, they don't deserve to be called martial artists. They have lost the dignity a martial artist should have. Goku could no longer judge them by his own standards of how to treat others. Frieza is this kind of person, and Cell contains Frieza's cells in his body. His level of evil is even greater. And as it turns out, Cell, cornered by Gohan, did indeed act like Frieza did back then. A cornered dog will jump over the wall. He would rather self-destruct and take everyone on Earth with him to be buried with him. Furthermore, from the perspective of Goku's own strength, with the enemies Goku had defeated in the past, like Piccolo Jr. back then, Geese, Frieza, and others, even if their mentality collapsed, and they gave up all hope, because Goku's own strength was greater than theirs. No matter what trouble they tried to stir up, they couldn't turn the tables in front of Goku, but Perfect Cell was different. At that time, Goku couldn't do anything to him even at full power. At this point, Goku had given it his all, while Cell still had plenty of energy to spare, calm and composed. This meant that Goku couldn't safely stop Cell from taking extreme measures in time. Therefore, he insisted that Gohan, who had already surpassed his own limits, end the fight quickly. Returning to the initial question, why did Goku insist that Gohan put Cell to death? From Cell's own personality, he was sinister and cunning, a bully to the weak and a coward to the strong, dishonorable and without integrity. He was a rational, innately evil being, and from Goku's perspective, Perfect Cell's power was superior to Goku's. Goku could not control the direction of the battle. Secondly, after the lesson of Frieza's sneak attack, Goku also understood that not everyone could be like Piccolo and Vegeta, and turn over a new leaf. Considering all of the above, I think this is why, even if we set aside the fact that Cell spots were too many and too difficult to draw an objective factor, Goku would still have to put him to death.